Well, welcome. It's time for Webinar Wednesday, 2018 style. Good afternoon. I'm your host, Kelly Bearden. I'll also be your moderator for today's webinar. And we have a great webinar planned. We'll get into that in just a second. And yes, it is on money. Thank you very much. It is on money and a lot of different ways to find it, to grow and start your small business. So, first of all, this webinar today, just a little background information, comes from our Kern Capital Summit that we actually hosted on December 6th on the campus of CSU Bakersfield. And we had 13 presenters, different programs, everything from microlending to agricultural loans, unique financing, alternative financing, small loans, big loans, everything in between, investment capital, grants, you name it. And we're going to spend some time going over that today. So we do have our sponsors for today's webinar, the School of Business and Public Administration, Mid-State Development, and the County of Kern, an economic development partner of the SBDC. In addition, I would like to recognize some of the sponsors for our Kern Capital Summit last month, and that includes the Central Valley Fund, Access Plus Capital, Deli Delicious Premium Sandwiches, the Bakersfield Biz Apps, and also the Community Colleges for California doing what matters for small business. So thank you all for your participation and your sponsorship in making this event happen today. Before I introduce our speaker for today, what I'd like to do is go through and tell you just a little bit about the SBDC. The SBDC is in all 50 states. There are over 1,000 centers across the country that are funded in part, majority part, by the U.S. Small Business Administration. Here in California, we have 6 centers throughout the vast state of California, of which ours encompasses the Central California region that goes from the far northern aspects of Mono County down here to Kern County in the south, to the east, to the state of Nevada, and also to the Pacific Ocean on your west. Here at CSU Bakersfield, we cover Kern, Inyo, and Mono counties, a very diverse swath of the Central California region, and enjoy doing that very much. A little bit about what the SBDC does following webinar interaction. So you'll notice you'll have a chat box down below. You can use the chat box to communicate with us at any times. Please ask any questions. They will be answered at the very end of the presentation. All our attendees today are muted, so please use that chat box for questions, comments, or anything else. If you would like handouts of our presentation, or if you'd like some other support, please mention that on the survey that will be launched at the conclusion of the webinar, and it'll come in a separate file to you. Please fill out the survey. That is very important for us, and it's really vital to get your feedback as we try to offer as many webinars as we can in 2018. So the SBDCs provide high quality, no cost, confidential one-on-one consulting. Here at the CSUB SBDC, we have a variety of backgrounds and diverse expertise with our senior level consultants, and we also have a number of associate or junior consultants, which are CSUB business students that are able to assist you in your business as well. We do a lot of training, and this webinar is a perfect example of the training topics that we offer. And we also do other in-depth things. Now, it's important to note that if you see right here is our website. If you're in a different region throughout Central California, you can find the website for your local center. But by going to that website, you can sign up for our consulting services, which are free. So, connecting with the SBDC here at CSU Bakersfield, it's pretty easy. Variety of different means. You can connect with us on a variety of different social outlets and social outlets, I should say. So please do so. And now, let's get on with the show. software platform that we're learning on the fly. But with us today is Keith Bryce, and Keith is the president of Mid-State Development Corporation, and it's for many years been one of the primary sources of capital to growing businesses in not only the Bakersfield community, but throughout Kern County and the southern San Joaquin Valley. Keith brings a vast experience of many years of banking, and I think last time we talked, we were talking somewhere around maybe $400 million that has been originated by Keith.
That's correct.
And so it's great to have Keith with us. Keith was a speaker and is going to help me deliver some of this content today. So Keith, could you give us your thoughts of accessing capital right now in Kern County and throughout the southern San Joaquin Valley?
First off, Kelly, Happy New Year. I think we can still say that for next few weeks here. Always glad to be here and always glad to participate with the webinar here. So far as access to capital in Kern County, it is, I don't want to say there's an abundance of money, but there are a number of sources that are willing to assist small business, existing business owners with capital. You're going to hear about some things that you may know about today and then some things that you may not. So I think I'm excited. This is the second Access to Capital conference that I participated in 2017. First one was up in Eastern Sierra, and that was a tremendous success. And we did this first one here at CSUV Bakersfield with a great turnout and great feedback. So you get some good information today.
Yeah, and what we're going to do is we're going to basically give you, those that could not attend, or maybe you did attend, kind of a synopsis of the 13 presentations that we saw that day. And let's kick off with the very first one. Our first speaker was a gentleman, Scott Rogowski, and he's with the statewide SBDC program and talked about some of the generalities of accessing capital. And he came up with this premise that there is money for everyone. And, I don't know about you, Keith. I think there's money for a lot of people out there and almost everyone, but maybe not everyone. And he went through a variety of different traditional and alternative capital resources that are available. Some of the key ones that he kind of touched on, we'll talk about. When we look at this list here on your screen, you'll see a number of ones that are kind of interesting and unique. Some of those are related to perhaps using your 401k. And at the SBDC, we do not advocate you using your retirement funds to start a business. However, we come across people all year long that do it. So there's a right way and a wrong way to do that, and Scott kind of showed us the right way. He showed us the right way to use credit cards in your business, and then talked about literally a dozen other lending programs or small business alternative lending programs. So when he talked about accessing capital, he talked about the 4 targets. He talked about a little bit of what lenders and investors need to know and what you need to know as far as your financial loan package. And, just kind of educating the borrower or the prospective borrower on time frame, on what you're going to need to produce, what you're going to need to do as far as any guarantees or anything like that. One of the unique things he brought up was that you don't need a full-fledged business plan. You can do a pitch deck, perhaps 10 slides, PowerPoint slides, that we see oftentimes in pitches for equity. Or you can come back with a 3 to 5 page plan if you're already in business. So those were some of the important things that Scott brought to us in that standpoint. He did another thing where he talked about fintech, and fintech is basically financial resources over the internet and what programs are available. And he had mentioned a couple of lenders that he felt took advantage of the client. And those are kind of listed there. You see a few different sources. A couple of them are online lenders, and one of them is a general program of merchant card advances, to where you oftentimes can see APRs up to 100%. So your interest rate could be that high. And then he also discussed a couple of people that he thought does right by the client and does right for you small business people. And that is actually looking at the rapid advance as far as your bank statements, and then a couple of solutions that I had mentioned about 401ks and credit cards. So When breaking down crowdfunding, for example, and Scott did that, he talked about a lot of the various programs that are out there now with crowdfunding. We have donation crowdfunding, which has been around for quite a while, and you'll see that on Kickstarter, GoFundMe, etc., that are also rewards-based. But we also get into debt crowdfunding, and you'll see a lot of that as far as borrowing sources that are out there. And then equity crowdfunding, which is our newest tool for crowdfunding, where you're literally start with your company, you're literally pledging for money, ownership in your particular company. And it really has a lot of potential. He told you to contact the SBDC, so contact us if you have any information on or any questions on those. So, Keith, I think you're a little better authority on this program than I am.
Thanks, Kelly. Yeah, this is somewhat like speed dating for money. So we'll get through this fairly quickly. One of the things that I'd like to also mention is that Kelly, the earlier presentation that Kelly just made, that's some of the stuff that they do here at the SBDC. So if you saw some areas, whether it's crowdfunding, whether it's discussion on angel funding, which I'm going to cover a little bit later on, that's something that your local SBDC can help you out with. A little bit about Mid-State Development. We're a nonprofit organization that was established in 1980. We were subsequently licensed by the SBA to offer, as a certified development company, to offer what's called the SBA 504 loan. I'm going to talk about a little later on some other loan programs that the SBA offers, but the 504 loan program is near and dear to my heart because that's what we do here at Mid-State. A little bit about the 504 loan program. It's commercial loans for expanding businesses. Fixed rate financing is, I think we're having a little bit of technical difficulties on the slides here, so bear with it. I can talk fast, but I can't talk that fast, Kelly.
I'll try to slow down a bit.
Okay, all right. So some of the advantages of the program is long-term below market fixed rate, client equity requirement. This is big because typically when you knock on a conventional bank's door for financing, they're going to look at an equity injection of 25 to 30%, whereas in many cases you can utilize the 504 program for a 10% equity injection. And what it does is it allows the bank to finance 90% financing. Banks, specifically the independent banks, can participate in larger transactions, and the bank will enjoy a loan to value as low as 50%. And I'll show you a little bit about that next. Little graph here shows you typically the bank loan is 50%. You will see that the CDC, which is Mid-State, is 40%, and the customer injection is 10%. Easy model here. I showed you a $500,000 project with the bank equity the bank loan at $250,000. Our portion is $200,000, and you as a customer comes up with $50,000. So again, that's somewhat of a simple project. I did show you a 7% rate, just as we're thinking rates are going up, but our last funding was at 4.56. So if you're out there leasing right now, and if you're looking at what my monthly payments are, you can see that on that previous graph. Eligible requirements for-profit businesses only. Tangible net worth can't exceed $15 million. And that's tangible net worth of the business. Net profit after federal taxes not to exceed $5 million during the previous years. That qualifies most businesses in our area here. A couple pictures of some examples of types of projects. From a small shop, you'll see motels and hotels. We are one of the top hotel lenders in the country, we as our industry, CDCs. There was a residential conversion where you had an office or a home that was converted to an office. And then you're going to see metal buildings. Some lenders a little bit nervous on metal buildings given the life of the metal building. but under the 504 program, you can utilize that. And then we have restaurants. This is a local Mexican restaurant that had been there, and they needed a new facility, went ground up on that. So that's a little bit about the 504 loan program, and I will talk about some of the other SBA programs a little bit later on.
Great, moving right along. Kern Capital Summit. One of our sponsors this year was the Central Valley Fund Capital Partners, and the Central Valley Fund Capital Partners was represented by Chris Carlson, and Chris did a fantastic job of articulating exactly what the Central Valley Fund Partners do. And here's kind of a little synopsis of how they work. They work with private equity. Your Central Fund Partners are going to be large deals. These are going to be larger than most people in attendance at our summit. However, they do both debt and they do equity on these large deals. And really, as a small business, it's really something to aspire to and have that goal of actually being one of their clients at one time. So private equity is money that comes from pension banks, foundations, individuals, or others. They actually will lend or actually invest in Central Valley Fund projects to where they then turn it out to small businesses. And so what they typically will do is they will actually operate out of 3 different funds. They had a fund that was established in 2005, of which they've pretty much either lent or made equity arrangements with. And then they have 2 other funds subsequent to that, to where they have a lot of money that they're willing to roll out. So what are they looking for? They're looking for businesses that have earning before income tax and amortization and depreciation of about $1 to $7 million. So these are companies that are generally pulling revenue of anywhere over $10 million. And they're looking for an investment size of somewhere between $3 and $15 million. They're in the Western United States. And look at this last box here, quality managers. So the team is extraordinarily important to them moving forward. Sure, you need the revenues and you need the profit, but you also need the team. The geographic focus for their deals has been largely in California and throughout the Central Valley, but also they've branched into the Pacific Northwest and other areas to serve their growing business. So that's a little bit about the Central Valley Fund and what they're doing. Here's a little bit of their managing partners, which show a lot of experience and expertise in both investment banking and in these types of programs. So that's a little bit about Central Valley Fund. We have the contact information here if you're interested. And on to angel investment.
Yeah, thanks, Kelly. Angel investment. This is probably one of the hotter topics that folks are inquiring about. We get calls consistently here at Midstate. I know Kelly's organization gets calls about angel investments. I'm going to cover what Misty talked about at the meeting. This is kind of appropriate because I'm involved with a local angel fund group that we're trying to start, and I'll talk a little bit about that later on. What's an angel investor? Under Section Reg D, there are certain requirements that an angel investor must maintain. One is income of between $200,000 and $300,000 on a consistent basis, and a net worth of over $1 million, excluding real estate. So it's important that when you hear of an angel fund investor out there, to get an understanding of the makeup of that type of person. There's a neat little graph that you'll see over there that sort of talks a little bit about, Kelly, that was a previous slide there, talks about the structure or kind of the life of an angel fund type of borrower. And the first piece you'll see is they have, a concept, and then they have some pre-seed money, and typically pre-seed money they may get from their own savings. They may get some money from crowdfunding or family, and then they move until the seed and the startup, and that's when the angel fund type of investors get involved with projects, and that's early stage. And then their chances are they may move into a venture capital, IPO, and then conventional bank financing. It is probably one of the most exciting types of form of financing out there, and it is something that is done quite a bit throughout the country. I mean, a little fun fact is in 2015, last data, there were 300,000 angels out there with 770,000 deals, which represents 24 billion investments. That is huge. Some of the types of things that angel funds look at is they look at, okay, will this product or service disrupt the market? Or will it improve the market penetration? Does it increase existing products, byways product development, and combines existing products, IP or trade secrets? You'll see some of those things there, like the invention of the car and charcoal that now lights itself, and you have charcoal that also is a combination of a wood product up there. And that's just a simple, okay, if you had that concept and you were past the pre-seed stage, that would be something an angel investment would look at. So what does an angel investor care about? They really care about, I don't think you can see that here, they care about market opportunity. That's the largest piece of the pie. The second piece they care about is the team itself. They look at the business and then they ask the valuation. I was fortunate to sit in a angel fund presentation last night, and that was with the Central Valley Angel Fund. Very well done. The presentation was well done. And it sort of got us excited because I was with a group of folks that went up there that were looking at starting one in Kern County. So stay tuned. You'll see some information on that coming later on.
Yeah, and maybe we'll see the Kern County Angels on this list.
Absolutely.
It's very exciting, and for the SBDC, we're very excited about the development of this fund and see ways of where we can participate and help out as we go. So we actually had a presentation from Kishore Joshi of Protexa Healthcare, which is a high-tech healthcare business. And it was really an interesting EB5 presentation, which is a visa program. And unfortunately, the slides aren't going to work for us today, so we're going to skip that presentation. We had a great panel where we didn't actually have slides, and we're trying to get back on time. So we're going to skip that, but we had an entrepreneurial panel where we had three wonderful individuals. We had Rebecca Robinson, and we had Chef Robert, and we had Ivan from Thermal Energy Solutions, who actually delivered a great, compelling testimonial of how they raised funds for their business. But that brings us now to a project that I'm excited about as well, and that's the Blue Tech Valley project. And this is a project that actually is supporting innovation technology in Kern County and throughout the rest of the state of California. We're an active participant here at CSU Bakersfield, and we're excited where this is money that is actually coming from the California Energy Commission. And the goal is to work with businesses in water, energy, and technology, specifically the energy sector, and to try to bring inventions to market that save ratepayers for utilities in the state of California money. So, but it's a much broader path than that. And so what we're hoping to do with this is to provide more resources to businesses in our area and more resources on trying to access capital in this particular area, but also work with them on patents and other IP that they can actually help with their business. So the Blue Tech Innovation Cluster, very excited to do this. One of the programs, when Hele Peterson, who is running the program out of the Wet Center on Fresno State campus, she brought up a program called the Cal Seed Program. And it's a program to where the state of California is investing nearly $25 million to over 100 businesses over the next 5 years. And this can be an idea or concept, very early stage technology, and they fund up to, I believe, $150,000. So basically how this will work is the applicant will apply, there'll be a technical review of the intellectual property, concept award, and then it gets into professional development and some type of a business plan competition, a prototype. And the 150 does not have to be repaid. That's really one nice thing about this particular program. And who can apply? Well, it's open to applicants on early stage innovation. So innovation, so it's before the prototype has been developed. Remember that? So if you have a prototype, you need not apply. Idea that's need to be tested, and concept. And it's timely too, because these applications are open in February of 2018 and then shut off for a while. So it's something you're interested in, contact us at the SBDC, variety of different technologies. So it's something that might work for you, the Blue Tech Valley Project. Okay, our next presenter was actually it was a program on the SBIR program, which we also call the America's largest technology seed fund. And so for those that aren't familiar with this grant program through the federal government, is essentially what they do is they take 5 agencies or up to 11 agencies in the SBIR, and they take they take a portion of their research and development budget. So each year the federal government has about $2.5 billion that they spend on small businesses. Again, it's a grant. It does not need to be repaid. So it's a competitive grant process. It's something that we are underutilizing here in Kern County. We need to get more active in small business innovation research, because it's money for the government to start your innovation or technology-driven business. So why would a small business participate? I like number 3, there's no dilution of equity. So if you're going to be going out for an equity round, say to Keys Angel Fund, and then what you do is you still have 100% of your equity, because the grant fund does not take any of your ownership and it does not require you to repay it as debt. So that's one of the great things that can happen with the small business innovation research. We have 3 phases, and our speaker went over this quite well. Phase 1 is kind of a feasibility study, proof of concept, and it can be for $150,000 to research your technologies and to test the viability of that concept in the marketplace. Usually, I think it's about 10 to 12 to 1 are the odds. So you have maybe 8 to 10% chance of receiving a phase 1 if you go by the numbers. Phase 2 is only open to those who received a phase 1. So if you received a phase 1, you can go after phase 2, which is a full research and developmental effort, which can be anywhere from a $300,000 commitment to $1 million that, again, does not need to be repaid, but gets your business up and going. So a little info on getting started. I like the bottom part, contact your SBDC. We'll work with you and help you get there. So back to Keith with increasing jobs at home by expanding exports.
I think you're going to do the that one, Kelly. That's on the export.
Boy, I did. He did a great presentation. I just thought Keith could live up to it, but not me. So let's talk about increasing jobs at home by having more exports. Glenn Roberts did a fantastic job of notifying us that 70% of the world's purchasing power is outside of the U.S. It's a global market. Yet, of those 70%, only 13% of our gross domestic product is generated by exports. So 13%, whereas you see some other foreign countries like Germany where it's nearly half of all of their export, or actually their gross domestic product. So in keeping fit with our particular conference, we wanted the exporting financing programs. And this is one that is actually through the Small Business Administration on export working capital. So there's a working capital loan that SBA has, which is helpful for people that need the working capital to maybe grow their product. There's also an Export Express, which is up to $500,000. There's an international trade loan, which is designed to help businesses. And this thing can go up to $5 million or 90% as far as the SBA guarantee goes. A couple more programs. Export-Import Bank of the U.S., or Ex-Im Bank, has a working capital loan guarantee. And I wish you were there where you could learn about all these great programs and you didn't have to listen to me recap them in 2 minutes. But that's what I just did. We were left with this statistic that the Central California region produces $13 billion a year in exported goods in 2015. And Keith, I'm going to give you a little pop quiz right now. Can you guess which county in Central California is #1 in exports?
Well, it's either going to be Kern County's #1 or Fresno County's #1 or 2. So I'm assuming it's Kern County with that thumbs up I see from you.
That is correct. Kern County, #1. And there's your team that you can meet. They're located out of Fresno. They're in our community a lot. Glenn Robertson, Bernadette Rojas. And that's export financing.
Okay, Kelly, I think I'm going to talk a little bit more about some of the SBA programs. I've covered the 504 program. Now I want to cover some of the other things that the SBA does. The nearest SBA office to us in Kern County is in Fresno, and they are very supportive of any economic development or any financing that needs to be done in Kern County. The SBA has what they call their 3 C's and a D. The SBA core concepts, as you can see, is access to capital. That's what most people think about. Then you have access to government contracts and access to business consulting. That's a little bit of what the SBDC does here. And then they provide disaster financing. And just a little side note on that, when you're looking at some of the natural disasters that occurred here in California over the last few months, the SBA has and continues to step up to provide direct financing to businesses that are affected by the disasters. The loan programs, I'll talk a little bit about the 7A loan program today. I covered the 504 loan program earlier. Those are the 2 main programs of the SBA. The 7A program, that's their flagship loan program. They have some maximums, they have some minimums. The typical maximum on a 7A loan is $5 million, and that covers both startup or expansion. There are guarantee maximums. And the reason why I'm telling you about a guarantee maximum, because these loans under the 7A program are made directly by the bank. What encourages the bank to make these loans are the guarantees that they receive from the SBA. So if you have a loan that is $150,000 or less, the SBA guaretees 85%. If it's greater than $150,000, then the SBA guarantees 75%. Use of proceeds, machinery, equipment, working capital, leasehold improvements, receivable inventory, refinance of existing debt, acquisition, construction, and business acquisition. They are probably one of the largest, what we call BizAc financing guarantees that are available there. Maturities, and this is important. You know, what the SBA looks at and what a lender looks at is the impact that a maturity of the type of loan that's going to have on your business and your ability to repay. So you're going to have maturities of up to 10 years for working capital, 7 to 10 years for machinery and equipment, 25 years for real estate, and if you have a combination of real estate and equipment, they can do a weighted average for multiple purposes. Interest rates, and they're typically negotiated with the lender. Keep in mind, the SBA guarantees the loan, but the loan is actually made from the lender. Most SBA 7A loans are prime-based, and that's Wall Street Journal Prime. There are certain spreads that are for loans that are less than 7, greater than 7. Max spread you're ever going to see on a SBA loan is 2.75% over the Wall Street Journal Prime rate. Guarantee fees, there are certain thresholds where the guarantee fee is eliminated, specifically loans that are less than 125,000 and or they are the express, or they call it an express application. There's another program that the SBA created a few years back. It's called the Veterans Advantage. They found that there were a lot of veterans coming out of some of the conflicts that we had, and the SBA wanted to step up and assist in some financing. So there are some Veteran Advantage programs that are out there. They also have a nonprofit relending mission-based lenders where they literally would use what they call a Community Advantage Loan Guarantee. That's up to $250,000. They also have the ability to do micro loans under that Community Advantage program. I'm also going to be covering, I think next or pretty close after the USDA, the Access Plus Capital, which is a new office that's just opened up in Bakersfield that we're excited about. As I mentioned earlier, Fresno District, you call them, they'll come, or they'll put you in the right direction of who you need to talk to about SBA financing.
Keith, I have a question. Could you give me an example of when a borrower who is looking for SBA funding, what is the situation where a 504 loan that you covered earlier would be best? And perhaps what is the situation where the 7A might be better?
Typically, we look at the 504 loan is centered primarily on equipment and real estate acquisition. When I say equipment, they have to have a useful life of 10 years, and or real estate where they're coming out of a lease scenario and they want to purchase. We do very few startups under the SBA 504 loan. We take the approach that if you're starting up a business, you don't want to buy a building right away, nor do you want to buy some equipment right away. You're better off leasing. Whereas under the SBA 7A loan, if you are doing a startup and you need to get some working capital and or you need to get some tenant improvement for leasing, that's when we recommend that you use a 7A loan as opposed to 504. We kind of think of the 504 loan program as sort of a graduate loan program. You've been in business for a few years. You've figured out your market. You figured out what you're going to be able to do as a business, and now you're looking at getting some capital for equipment and or real estate.
Great, thank you.
I want to talk a little bit about the USDA, and we look at the USDA at Midstate and as the SBA as a valued partner of a government program that will cover some areas that we won't, and occasionally they will overlap some of the things that we do. The USDA, which they have an office off of California Avenue here, and they have a bigger office in Fresno, they deliver over 40 programs that provide a variety of, from loan guarantees to grant programs to technical assistance. In the program areas, rural business co-op services, community programs, water waste disposal, community facilities, single-family development, multifamily housing. There's one of the programs that is utilized under the USDA is the B&I program, Business and Industry. And that's similar to the SBA 7A loan in that loan is made directly with a commercial bank and they obtain the guarantee from the USDA. And their focus on the B&I loans are in specific areas, especially in rural communities that traditional lenders may be reticent about lending.
Yeah, Keith, can the B&I program be used for like shopping centers in rural areas and things that traditionally SBA funding can't? You know,
on a case-by-case basis, they'll consider it. The interesting thing with the B&I program is, you know, you have the ability to do some, you know, water treatment facilities and things that are somewhat out of the box. I think I'm going to cover a little bit of that in the next slide here. This is some of the terms that you'll have with the USDA program: working capital 7 years, equipment 15 years, real estate 30. 30, that's an additional 5-year amortization. And again, they also will do a blended type of term with the loan. This is important with what is rural. Now, you keep in mind the USDA is focused on rural areas, and the defined rural area is a population that is not greater than 50,000, nor can it be adjacent to a city larger than 50,000. So if you look at some of the smaller cities in Kern County and throughout the valley, they fit perfectly with the rural definition. There's a website that you can look and see if your community is eligible. Other programs, USDA, they got biorefinery, they got repowering, bioengineering. One thing I'm hoping you're getting from this webinar is there are a number of sources of financing, both privately and publicly: SBA, USDA, angel, crowdfunding, you name it. One of the things that we also have the ability to do with the USDA is they have a relending program. In other words, they are putting monies out to an organization, whether it's a bank, a not-for-profit, that has the ability to take monies that they borrowed and relend to a specific customer. Small ones, large ones, depending on the definition. Again, typically the loans are $150,000 or less, and that rural definition is 25,000 or less in population. Lee is the contact in Fresno, but there are Dan Johnson here in Bakersfield is a great contact for the USDA program.
Okay, and another program that we have is a grant program from the USDA, and one of our lead consultants, Jim Keeler, delivered this particular program. And what it is it's the Value Added Producer Grant Program. And again, this is a grant program from USDA where you do not have to repay the funds. You do have to provide matching funds for the planning and working capital expenses that you would incur. And it's probably more geared toward existing businesses that are going to be able to show and produce value-added activities. But it's a great program, and it's one that they're using across the country. That program is competitive, but it uses locally produced foods. An eligible user of this particularly would be either raw, cooked, or processed. It can be a edible substance, a beverage or ingredient or other that's for human consumption. Now, when we get into animal feeds and live animals and plants and fibers and tobacco products and narcotics, not so much, not going to make it on the eligibility on that one. So the grant terms for this cycle, and this cycle, again, this is very timely because these grants are due the end of this month. So if this is something that you would like to consider, it is something you need to do immediately. So the grants are generally $75,000 for planning. You can actually plan your activities, plan what markets you hope to enter and trade shows you might want to produce or whatever, and actually do a planning grant for $75,000. That's the maximum that's available. But they will also give you a grant for working capital. Again, these funds need to be matched. You do need to have some funds. I believe the matching funds are 50%. So if you have working capital needs of $500,000, you can write a plan for this, and if you, through the competitive process, win, you're basically given $250,000 for doing working capital. So the planning activities, we discussed a little of that: feasibility, marketing plans. You can get into maybe plans that you want to do as far as social media, maybe a technology plan that includes some online services, etc. Legal advice, all eligible uses. And this is important because if you're looking for more fixed assets, call Keith, because no equipment, no buildings, Your SBA lenders can help you with the 7A on vehicles and on maybe preparation and some of the soft costs that go into it, as far as engineering design for a specific facility. But there's no production, so if you're looking for that or other areas, go to their website if you want more information. But the value-added producer grants are a great program. So we have one program left, Keith. What wrapped it up for us that day was Access Plus Capital, another fine sponsor. And take it away.
Okay, we're excited about Access Plus Capital. If you look at the slide here, you're seeing that they're primarily focused on the Central Valley, and their vision is a prosperous Central Valley powered by entrepreneurs. They just recently opened an office in Bakersfield, and they had been servicing Bakersfield out of Fresno for a number of years, but they opened an office in Bakersfield and had a great reception in the community, and it's a program that we will partner with here at Midstate Development, and we're hoping that a lot of our other partners out there will access these folks. Thus the term access to capital. So what some of the things that they do, they're training in finance. Finance is one of their key focuses, and they fit a niche where you're looking at a range between $5,000 to $500,000, which they will fund for working capital, machinery, equipment, commercial real estate, and acquisitions. In many cases, they will partner with the SBA, where the small business owner has an SBA loan, needs additional working capital, needs additional equipment. He may have, or they may have a conventional loan. They also need some additional financing. Access Plus Capital will assist with that. They'll help you with tenant improvements. They'll do some refinancing. And as you can see, a little graph on the right, with a rate at 100%, that you would want to talk to Access Capital to refinance that type of loan. They finance existing businesses. They do microloans, and that's a request that we consistently get here in Kern County. And Access Capital is one of the folks that will do microloans. And if you look and see, it's online application, 2-day pre-qual, no upfront documentation, collateral support available, funding in 2 to 4 weeks, 2% packaging fee, rate is 7.75%, APR up to about 11%, term to 3 to 6 years. Now you overlay that with some of the cabbage financing, some of the predatory lending programs out there. This is a much more reasonable cost of doing a microloan as opposed to doing a credit card type of loan. Now they have some of the larger loans greater than $50,000. First point of contact with most loans is you want to see who's going to understand the program, and they're requiring that you talk to a business development officer. You'll see some contact information, and then you go through the application, the documentation process. And the cool thing is their underwriting's in-house. Funding usually takes between 4 and 6 weeks. If you got real estate, you're going to add another 2 to 4 weeks because you have a environmental investigation and some appraisal requirements. Rates, you're looking at 6 to 8.25%, which again, for the type of loans you're looking at, that's very fair and very reasonable pricing. There's a packaging fee, and terms go from 5 to 25 years. So you have a pretty good amortization schedule for some of those loans. They'll do startups. One of the things that a startup that they're going to look for, as in most lenders, is they want to see a business plan. They want to see projections, and they want to see a break-even point. Is it feasible? Kiss of death is you show a business plan, and there's no break-even point, and you're losing money for the first 2 years. Keep in mind, you're looking at borrowing money, so you never want to show that you're losing money, don't have the ability to repay. With a startup, they're looking at about a 25% minimum ownership injection, And that can be from savings. It can be from crowdfunding, family, friends, Aunt Edna, whoever you can get. So and they look at, as most lenders, industry and business experience. And funding typically takes between 4 and 6 weeks. And Kelly, I think we've covered. We did a speed dating session for access to capital in less than an hour.
We did, and we would ask for questions right now, but since we don't have those 13 presenters, we only have one of the 13 presenters here. Any specific questions, please contact us. We can get you some information on how to contact them or contact your local SBDC. I need to thank Keith Bryce for joining us today. Keith, always a pleasure to have you on our webinars in our webinar series. We'll be back, and thank you for bearing with us. We have a brand new platform that we're using, and I think all of you have all tried to learn software. So that's what we're going through now. We're excited about this particular platform that we're using, and it's called Webinauto, by the way, and it's a newer platform for us. We're working through it, and we're about out of time. So for Keith Bryce and our executive producer, Elizabeth Hamlin, I'm Kelly Bearden. We'll be back next week for another webinar. Until then, have a great day, and bye-bye now.